Hi, we are going to talk about 16.1b and 16.3, which is how do I calculate the area of a circle and the area of a sector. So pause the video if you need to get your notes set up, and then we'll begin. So to start, we're going to draw a circle. I'm using my fancy tool, but you can freehand it if you need to. So I'm going to draw, whoops, circle. I'll find the center. And we're going to talk about how to find the area of this circle. So area we've talked about before. It's just the amount of space inside a figure measured in squares. So one thing I could do here, and you don't need to do this on your own paper, but I'm going to approximate it just by actually counting the squares inside this circle. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3. This is almost a full square. 4, 5, 6, 7, almost. Maybe if I, combined this with this, it would make a full square. And this with this-ish. Okay, let's see, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, kind of. 14, 15, 16, and then we have some partial squares. So maybe these together make up 17, and maybe these together make up 18, and maybe these together make up 19. So when I actually just count the boxes inside, I get about approximately 19 units squared. Now you don't need to write any of that down. Hopefully you have your circle, and I'm going to figure out what the radius is. The radius I can pretty much figure out because I can count the units, and here it looks like it's about 1, 2.5. Okay, so we're going to say the radius here is about 2.5 units. So what should be on your paper is a circle with the radius drawn in, and then r equals 2.5 units. And obviously this is a horrible way to calculate the area of a circle. If we have a giant circle, we would have to count, and it doesn't get us very close. So I'm just going to lay out for you the formula for the area of a circle. So the area of a circle equals pi r squared. Okay, pi times the radius squared. And just as a reminder, squaring a number does not mean multiplying it by 2. It means multiplying it by itself. So this is pi times the radius times the radius. Now this is the formula that we're going to use here, but I do just want everybody to remember what it means to square a number. So we're going to go through now and actually calculate the area of this circle in an exact way. Okay, so using r is 2.5. So the area of this circle is going to be pi times 2.5 to the second power. Now you have a choice in terms of how to type this into your calculator. We're going to use 3.14 as an approximation for pi. You could type in 3.14, okay, that's pi, times 2.5 to the second power. And that button is right here. Okay, it's next to the 7 if you have a calculator that looks like mine. And that will get you the answer. You could also type in 3.14 times 2.5 times 2.5, because that's what it means to square a number, is to multiply it by itself. And you'll get the same answer. So 19.625, approximately, because we used an approximation for pi. So 19 point, and we're going to practice rounding to the nearest hundredth. So I've got 0.62. That 5 means I bump it up to a 63. So 19.63 units squared. That squared is important because it means we're counting squares inside the circle, and that's pretty close to what I got when I did the approximation. Okay, so the area of that circle is about 19.63 units squared. So I'm going to go ahead and give you 2 examples to try on your own. So example 2, I'm not going to draw the circle. I'm just going to tell you that there's a circle and it has a radius that's 5 centimeters, and I would like to know the area. And then example 3, this time I'm going to tell you that the diameter is 12 inches, and I would like to know the area. So you're going to use the same formula, pi times the radius squared. Here you're going to use 5 for the radius, and then here you need to think about what you're going to use for the radius. You can't put a 12 there, okay, because R stands for radius, and 12 is not the radius, it's the diameter. So I'm going to let you do a little thinking. I'd like you to pause the video, go ahead and try both of these on your own, and then when you're ready, come back and I will quickly go through them so that you can know if you're right or not. So go ahead and pause, come back when you're ready. Okay, let's see how you did. So, for example 2, area equals pi times the radius squared. 5 squared is 25, so the area here is going to be 25 times pi. So I'm going to take my calculator, 25 times 3.14, 78.5. So the area here is approximately 78.5 centimeters squared. For example 3, I'm going to just go ahead and write down what the radius is before I begin. So if the diameter is 12, the radius is half of that, or 6. So the area is pi times the radius squared, or 5 times 6 squared. 6 times itself is 36, so I have 36 pi. So to figure out the approximate area, I'm going to do 36 times 3.14, and I get 113.04 inches squared. All right. So finding the area is pretty straightforward. If you feel like you need more practice, there are some great Khan exercises where you can just practice, but pretty straightforward. So what we're going to do now is talk about, we'll call this example 4. What happens if you are given the circumference? So I'm going to tell you that the circumference of a circle is approximately equal to 56.52 meters. So in other words, you can imagine a circle, and if you walk all the way around the circle, it's huge. You're going to be walking 56.52 meters. And I want to know, what is the area? So thinking back to our area formula, area equals pi times the radius squared, I really can't find the area unless I know what the radius is. So we need to come back over here to our circumference and think about what is a formula for circumference that includes the radius. And so as a reminder from last class, the circumference is 2 times pi times the radius. So what we want to aim to do here is use what we know, that the circumference is 56.52 meters, to figure out what the radius is. Once we know the radius, we can plug it back in here. So let's begin. 2 pi r is the circumference. I don't know what the radius is yet, so I'm leaving the r there. But what I know is that the circumference is equal to 56.52. Okay, so however this works out, it's going to have to equal 56.52. And this is an equation that we can all solve. So it's a little tricky how to deal with this pi. So what I'm going to do is divide on both sides by this number. Now this is a number. 2 pi is a number. It's approximately equal to 2 times 3.14. But all I have to really do is divide on both sides by 2 pi. That's going to cancel the 2's because 2 divided by 2 is 1, and it's going to cancel the pi's because pi divided by pi is 1, right? 3.14 divided by 3.14 is 1. So all that's left over here is the r. And then I need to do this work on my calculator. So I'm going to do 56.52 divided by 2 times 3.14. Okay? And I get 9. So again, I just typed in 56.52 divided by, and then I used parentheses to do 2 times 3.14, and I got 9. So that means the radius is 9. So again, I set up an equation. Since I knew the circumference, I was able to put a number on that side and then divide on both sides by 2 pi to solve for r. So the radius of this circle is 9. And I can double check that by plugging it back in, right? If I do 2 times 3.14 times 9, Okay, 2 times pi times what I think the radius is, I get 56.52, the circumference. So now that I know the radius is 9, I can find the area of this circle. So area equals pi times 9 to the second power. And you can simplify that or just plug it right in. I'll plug it in this time. So we've got, scooch over. Okay. We've got 3.14 times 9 squared, 254.34. And this would be meters squared. So a little bit more complicated here because we're having to use the circumference formula and the area formula. So using this, feel free to pause if I'm going too fast, but using this, I'd like you to try one on your own, example 5. This time the circumference is approximately equal to 62.8 centimeters, and I would like to know the area. So once again, I'd like you to pause the video and do as much of this as you can on your own, and then come back and see how you did. So I'm going to zoom through this. Circumference is 2 pi r, so that means that 2 pi r is going to equal about 62.8. Divide on both sides by 2 pi to get r by itself. Those cancel. 62.8 divided by 2 times 3.14 is 10. Lovely. So that means the radius of this circle is 10. Once I know the radius, I can find the area. Area equals pi times the radius squared. So that means it's going to be pi times 10 squared. I'm going to do this by hand because it's easy. 10 squared is 100. So hopefully we all know that 100 times 3.14, I just have to slide the decimal over 2 spaces. It's going to be 314 centimeters squared. Okay guys, there's just one more topic that we need to do here. I'm going to grab a new piece of paper. And this will be example 6. Okay, so for example 6, I need to draw a circle. You do the same. Ooh, party. Okay. We're going to draw a circle. Please do your best to draw the center of that circle. There it goes. And we are going to imagine that this is a pizza, and we're going to draw in a slice of the pizza. So I'm going to draw a radius going up and a radius going kind of off to the side. So try to make yours a little bit like mine. And I'm going to say that this arc is about 130 degrees. So it just so happens that I had pizza with my family last night, and there was almost none for me because my family loves pizza. So we're going to imagine that my son Everett ate that much of the pizza. So what I'm wanting to know is how much pizza did he eat? So a pizza, we'll say that it's an 8-inch pizza, which means, oh, I don't know how they measure pizza. I don't know if they measure it with the radius or the diameter, but let's just say that the radius of this pizza is 8 inches. And so what I want to know is how many square inches of pizza did Everett eat? And so this is actually going to take us back to what we did last class with arc length, only this time I'm not looking for the length of this arc. I'm looking for the area of that sector. So this is called a sector. It's just a piece of the circle, but it's a piece of the inside of the circle rather than just a piece of the circumference. So we're going to do something very similar. So I want you to write here sector area equals. The first thing that I need to do when I'm trying to find the area of a sector is figure out what portion of the circle is taken up by the sector. So in this case, it's 130-degree arc out of 360 degrees of the circle. So this fraction will tell me what portion of the circle is taken up by that sector. And then I'm going to need to multiply that not by the circumference like we did last time, but by the area of the entire circle, which is going to be pi times the radius, which in this case is 8, squared. And we'll write the formula down in a minute. This is just how to do this specific problem. So it's 130 degrees out of 360 degrees. That's the fraction of the pizza that Everett ate, times the area of the entire pizza, which is pi times 8 squared. And this is a little bit tricky just in terms of the calculations. So I'm going to do it piece by piece. The first thing I'm going to do is convert that fraction into a decimal. So 130 divided by 360. And I can approximate it. I'll round to the nearest hundredth. So the 36 is going to stay since that number is less than 5. So it's about 0.36. And then I'm going to go ahead and figure out what that is as an approximation. So 3.14 times 8 to the second power is 200.96. And so all I have to do now is multiply those two numbers together. This is the area of the entire pizza, and I'm multiplying that by a decimal, which represents the portion of the pizza that Everett ate. So 0.36 times 200.96. So the area of this sector is approximately, yoink, equal to 72. So there's a 34 after the decimal, and because of that 5, I'm going to round it up. The 34 will become a 35. So it's approximately equal to 72.35 square inches, which sounds like a gross amount of pizza, but there you have it. Right? So let's write down the general formula for the area of a sector. So area of a sector equals m degrees divided by 360 degrees times pi r squared, okay, where m is the measure of the arc. And you're going to want to highlight this formula, right, because that is important. Whee! Area of a sector. Okay. We just have one more example, and then we are done for today. So example 7, draw a circle. Draw a center. And we'll draw in there, and there. And we'll say that this arc is 110 degrees. But here's the catch. For this one, I would like to know the area of that green sector. So I think it would be really great if you could try this on your own. Use the formula that we just learned. The only catch is to really think about what is the measure of this arc, right? Because this arc is surrounding the sector that we're interested in. So where's our formula? Okay, when you go to replace m, you're going to need to think about what is the measure of that arc there. So go ahead and try it on your own, and then come back and see how you did. So the area of a sector equals m over 360 times pi r squared. And in this case, m, I'm going to write this off to the side. Well, no, I'm not. So 110 degrees is this arc. So to find the rest of it, I'm just going to subtract from 360, right? All the way around the circle is 360. So this arc over here is 250 degrees, and I'll go ahead and mark that on the circle. So the area then is going to be 250 out of 360 degrees, and I'm going to multiply that by pi, whoops, I forgot to give you the radius, guys. There's no way you could have done this on your own. I'm sorry. Let's call the radius 2 inches. So we're going to do pi times 2 to the second power. Sorry, guys. So first thing we're going to do is do that division. 250 divided by 360, and that's going to be 0.6944444. So we have a 69 here. That's less than 5, so the 69 stays. So we've got area equals 0.69 times, and I'm going to go ahead and on my calculator do 3.14 times 2 squared, 12.56. And then I'm going to go ahead and take my calculator and do the multiplication. 0.69 times 12.56, 8.6664. So when I round to the nearest hundredth, that 66 is going to get bumped up because the number next door is 5 or greater. So the 66 will become a 67. So the area is approximately equal to 8.67 inches squared. And that's the area of that green sector of the circle. So it's time to write our summary. Go ahead and draw a line. All right, so for the summary here, the essential question was, how do we find the area of a circle and how do we find the area of a sector? And so we're going to want to write to find the area of a circle. And just like last time, you can either tell me the formula to use or you can explain it out in writing. And then to find the area of a sector, and tell me what to do. Make sure you put your summary into Google Classroom. Great job, guys.